tonight after work, I've come out to the shed and I've bored out the center of the discs so that the pins fit nicely inside there, and I've also tapped the holes I needed so I could hold these discs to my little fixture. The little angle meter I ordered arrived today, and I was able to confirm the angles of everything and get the 8 degrees that I need. Was reading 8 degrees a second or so ago, but that's going to be close enough. I've also scribed a line along here so I can get it set up reasonably close. I need to change from the chuck to the collets so I can put my cutter in there, and I should be able to start milling this now. This is the first one off the mill. Still bolted to the little fixture. I just wanted to make sure none of the bolts were loose, but that's worked pretty well. So you can see that gives me the taper angle that I need. So I'm going to take that off, just deburr the edges. There are some sharp edges on it, and probably start on the second one. I've machined up the first 2 of the tapered spaces, and that's worked really well. I am going to have to drill the holes through the chassis to bolt them in place, but it's actually come out better than I thought. There is a bit of movement in the springs, so when the shackle's on there, that should all line up. The only thing, well, the good thing about only having done 2 of them is I'd forgotten that the threads on the back were a little bit short, which is why I've just got 2 washers in there temporarily. But this isn't a problem because I still need to machine 2 more. So what I'm going to do is that will be the outside one on the other side of the car because they're identical. And the next 2 I machine, I'll just machine them so they're still the same taper, they've just got slightly more thickness. So these outside ones, the thickness is critical because that's where it controls where the shackle sits and where the spring sits. Whereas the inside ones are just a spacer, they're just taking up the gap. So when I machine the next 2, I can compensate for that. I'll make them maybe 3 mil, 1/8 of an inch thicker, which is good because that means then there's less milling I need to do. I'm still getting the hang of it. I had to stop now. I think the tool's getting a bit dull. You can sort of feel when it doesn't seem to be cutting quite as well, and also the chips seem to come off a lot hotter. So tomorrow I will resharpen that and have a go at doing the other 2. My little jig is working well. That holds it very securely. There's no problems with that at all. So let's see on my 3D prints that my little blanks, I should have just enough on these, just enough extra height on these. If not, what I'll do is I'll turn up a thick hardened washer that goes on the inside there, just because it's a bit hard now to cut this thread a little bit deeper. This thread should have been maybe 1/16 of an inch further down, but that's all easily fixable. And like I say, I'll need to drill through the holes. I did get somewhere a bunch of these coach bolts which will mimic the look of rivets, and I can cut these off here and rethread them 5/16, so I've got the right nuts on the end. But that will all be tomorrow night's job. This is how my rear suspension pins have come out. It's not 100% finished because I need to get the right length coach bolts to go through there, but you can see how there's the tapered spacer on that side, and then a matching one on the other side, and the pin is held with that big nut with and it'll have a pin through it. You can see how the shackle fits on there. I've just finished making the second one, so it might be a bit easier to see. I ran these through the sandblaster just to get rid of the shiny finish on them, make them look a bit more like a forged part. But you can see how I filed out the holes to accept the square-headed coach bolts. It's quite a pain of a job to do, to be honest. So I only have small square needle files and then this bigger square file. This one's really good because it's actually the exact right size for the bolt heads. And I found the easiest thing to do was start off the corners with a small round file. This is actually a chainsaw sharpening file. And just dig into the corners, and then that gave the square file something to bite into. And the other thing that made it a little bit tricky is you need to make sure the hole is still in the right place. But that wasn't too hard to do. You can sort of line these up and check them, and I scribed lines on here so I knew how far to file. So it all worked reasonably well. But you can see now how the pin fits through there. And then that fits on there, and then the other spacer goes on the other side. Obviously you have to make sure you get them all the right way around. The thing that's really holding the pin on is the big bolt on the inside of that. So as I've said, this is it's just superficial really, and it's just designed to look the part, but that'll hold it all on and it'll strengthen it all as well. I was considering welding, or probably getting someone else to weld the pin to the spacer, but this is hardened steel and this is mild steel, and I didn't want to affect anything or make anything go out of shape with the heat, so I decided I'm just going to bolt it, which should be good enough, I think. It'll have to be bolted up very tight, of course. And the other thing that occurred to me is I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to stop this rotating when I do the nut up. I did consider milling flats on here, but then I was worried that would cause sort of pockets where dust and grit and stuff could collect, and it would wear away against the shackle. And similarly, I didn't really want to machine flats on the pin part and weaken it. So I think what I'm going to have to do is wrap something around this, aluminium probably, and then clamp it up in my biggest pair of vice grips, and hope that that's enough to stop it turning while I torque up the nut to as tight as I can get it really. But it's actually come out pretty well. I still need to drill the cross hole for the split pin for the castle nut. So now that I can fit all this up, I can do that. I can tighten this, put this on with the washer. I'm using a special hardened washer on the inside as well, and figure out where that split pin hole needs to go, drill that, and then I can temporarily bolt all this up and see if it all works. I've drilled the cross hole for the split pin. I keep forgetting I actually need to do that on the other end of the pins as well, but I'll do that later. But with the shackles in place, I haven't put the bolts all the way through, but that actually all seems to work and seems to line up pretty much the way it should. So that's actually a big piece of the puzzle on this car solved. That's something I've been wanting to get sorted out for a very, very long time, because with that done now, or almost done, it means I can actually start getting this thing on its wheels and turn it into a proper rolling chassis. So I have an order with the register spares at the moment for the things that I'm going to need to finish off the rear axle. Unfortunately, I can't order everything I need all at once. One, just because it's too expensive and I have to spread the costs out a little bit, and if I do a really big order, I'll get taxed on it when it comes in. So you kind of have to juggle between, if you do smaller orders, you don't have to pay as much tax, and they charge you the tax on top of the postage as well. So the bigger the order, the more the postage is going to be, the more the tax is. So it's kind of a juggling game to figure out what parts do you need at any stage. So I've ordered the bits that I need to finish off the rear axle and the torque tube, and also some of the things I'm going to need to start getting the engine together. So head studs, various other studs for the front cover, things like that. It's mainly just the stuff to get the effectively the short block done and in there. One of the things I needed to order was more BSF screws and things like that, because I realized I can't take this to be balanced yet because I don't have the 1/4 inch bolts that I need to tighten it up. I've probably got some old ones actually that I can use just so they can get this together so they can balance it for me. I'll search through my boxes, I should have something, but I want to get all new ones to use on the car. And those are my camshafts in there, which I still need to actually measure to see exactly what I've got, because I think they were reground at some point, so goodness knows what they are. But slowly starting to look like a car. I think the moment I'm really looking forward to is when I can actually bolt the wheels on. I think that'll be quite a milestone, to actually have a chassis that I can roll around and steer and sit in and make brum brum noises and go poop poop like Mr. Toad. So I think that was a good thing to get achieved this weekend. And the cool thing now is, after a busy day in the shed, I get to relax in my fake little pub with my fake little fireplace, a beer, catch up on some of my reading, which I don't do as much now because I used to do it when I was commuting in and out of work. But one, I don't go into the office as often, and we're not going into the office at all at the moment because we're still locked down. So I'll catch up on my reading here with my beer and some popcorn, and just enjoy the dim glow around the machines. That's all very pleasant.